Hollywood. It's a 2-hour special edition of Rockline, the show where you interview the hottest stars in rock and roll. Hello again, I'm Bob Coburn. Rockline is brought to you in part by Budweiser. For all you do, this Bud's for you. Tonight, Rockline is an evening with George Harrison. So get your questions ready and call us toll-free in the U.S. and Canada. 1-800-344-ROCK. That's 1-800-344-7625. One number toll-free from anywhere in North America. George Harrison's contribution to society is immeasurable. As a member of the Beatles, he helped shape the identity of millions of us. As a solo artist, he has not only given us some beautiful music, but has also conveyed a strong sense of spirituality as well. And it's a pleasure for Rockline to welcome George Harrison. Nice to have you here. Nice to meet you.
Sure.
Welcome to Rockline.
Is that me?
That's you. That's how you've affected
me.
That's
the real me. Right. Okay. Hello, everybody.
Hello, George. First thing I want to ask is what led to your association with Jeff Lynne, who co-produced the record with you? Had you known Jeff before, or was this a first-time project for you?
Well, actually, Jeff and I were born as Siamese twins back in 1927. It took him 14 years to sort of separate us and another 28 to get us back together again.
It seems to me that Jeff really brought out the best in you and let you create a record that was really yours. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Words cannot tell the greatness of this man.
Jeff is with us tonight, by the way. We may talk to him a little bit later this evening. Right now we're going to play a song from Cloud 9, the most recent LP by George Harrison. Got My Mind Set on You on Rockline. From Cloud 9, Got My Mind Set on You by George Harrison. George has a beautiful guitar in his lap right now, and hopefully we'll coerce him to play something a little later today. Right now we're going to take our first call for George Harrison. It's Sherry. She is in St. Charles, Missouri, listening to KC95 in St. Louis. Good evening, Sherry, and welcome to Rockline.
Hi.
Hi, Sherry. How are you doing?
This is such an honor to talk to you on the phone, and I want to tell you what a great album the Cloud 9 album is, and I wanted to ask you, how did you go about picking the background musicians that you have on it?
They're the only people I know, actually. It's true. You know, the drummer, Jim Keltner, I wouldn't go nowhere without him, and Ringo. These are people who I know, and I've known a long time, and so it's easy to work with.
And, of course, Eric Clapton and Gary Wright.
Yeah,
and,
the list goes on. Except the one guy I never met before was a guy who played the cello on 2 tracks.
Mm-hmm.
So I won't mention his name. It's a sort of rude name. But anyway, he's the only person I didn't know.
Sherry, thank you for your call, and thank you for starting us off tonight. We're going to take a brief time out. We'll return in just one moment. We've just gotten started on our 2-hour special edition of Rockline with George Harrison. You can call us toll-free from anywhere in North America at 1-800-344-ROCK. Welcome back to our 2-hour special edition of Rockline with George Harrison. I'm Bob Coburn. Our next call is Kenny from Los Angeles, listening to 95.5 KLOS. Kenny, you're on Rockline with George Harrison.
All right. Hi, Bob.
Hi, Kenny.
George.
Hi, how do you do?
All right. I'd like to, Sherry, this is a great honor to me also to speak to you.
Well, me too. So let's get on with that bit. What do you want to know?
Okay. My question is, what was it like working with Jeff in the studio producing the album?
It was terrible. He's such a rat. He's a real rat. I wouldn't have anything to do with him. Okay? What else you want to know?
What else tonight, Kenny?
How did it, how did he help your sound and being that you hadn't worked with the producer in a long time, I think, since Phil Spector?
Yeah. He used to just have sex with me, every 30 minutes just to keep me on my toes. No, seriously, Jeff is a great arranger, great musician, good singer, and, having been sort of through that kind of musical experience that I've been through, the Roy Orbisons and Buddy Hollys and, all those people, that we had a lot in common, and we had a great support, not just musically, but as human beings, and that was the key to it all.
Kenny, thanks so much for being on Rockline tonight, and call us again sometime.
Piss off, Kenny.
We're going to talk now to Stephen. Stephen is in Woodmere, Long Island, listening to 92.3 K-Rock in New York.
Just joking, Kenny, just joking.
Stephen,
I had a Dos Equis earlier, that's all it is, okay? Love you, Kenny, love you.
Stephen, meet George Harrison.
Hi, how you doing, George?
Hi, Steve, where are you?
I'm from Woodmere, Long Island, as Bob just said. I wanted to congratulate you, first of all, on the success of the new album, and also on your induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame along with the other Beatles.
Thank you very much.
And,
Thank you.
The thing I want to ask you was, you have always been known as a Quiet Beatle. Lately, though, you've been giving a lot of interviews. I was wondering, how does it feel to be facing the media again?
It feels okay. You know, let's face it, I was the Quiet Beatle because I didn't really want to say much, you know. At that time, I was just watching what was happening. And then later on, I was so paranoid I couldn't do it anyway. And now I seem to have got myself in a reasonable condition where it's actually fun. And it does help having, you know, a record that's done well. Let's face it, I wouldn't be out here if it was a flop. And so I'm out here and I'm trying to enjoy it. And I feel a lot of love, you know, for the Beatles and for me personally. And that's why I'm here.
And your fans are thrilled to have some contact with you again, which is what the media provides, ultimately. And, Stephen, thanks for the call. We appreciate it. We're going to talk now with Hal. Hal is located in Columbus, Ohio, and our affiliate there is QFM 96. Good evening, Hal.
Hi, and hello, George.
Hi, how are you?
Congratulations on Cloud 9 going platinum.
Thanks a lot. I must tell you, I do feel a bit like Dr. Ruth at this moment, so if you have any sexual problems, just bring them right out, okay?
Trying us at all, hopefully. But I do have an interesting question, hopefully. On the When We Was Fab video, I read in this magazine, Beatle Fan, that Paul McCartney had said in like a London interview that he wanted to play the role of the Walrus. And I noticed that as the camera pulls back, there's Ringo, you, and the Walrus with the left-hand bass in the shot, just as a guy walks across with John Lennon's Imagine album cover. Now, is that a reunion? Is Paul in the Walrus mask or not?
Well, here's another clue for you all. The Walrus was Paul.
Excellent.
Would it make you like the video anymore if you know it's Paul in there, or could it just be like B.B. King or Alfred Hitchcock? Doesn't really matter, you know. But
doesn't really matter.
But it really is Paul, but he's a bit shy lately.
Hal, thanks for calling. Thanks for being on tonight. He mentioned When We Were Fab. That's what we're talking about. Let's listen to it now from Cloud 9 on Rockline.
Back then, long time ago, when grass was green.
From Cloud 9, a long time ago, When We Was Fab on Rockline. We're with George Harrison in a special 2-hour edition. Our next call for George from Philadelphia, it's Ross, and he's listening to 94 WYSP. Good evening.
Hi, is Dr. Ruth there?
Yeah, I'm here, yeah.
How you doing, Doc? I have this sexual dysfunction.
Good. About time.
Now listen, I would like to know if you're planning a tour to support your latest effort.
Well, no, I'm not actually. I don't have a tour planned at all, actually. I'm so busy being, you know, just doing this and everything else, you know. I mean, it's so long since I made a record, you know. What else do you want? You know, give us a break. But I don't discount the fact that I would like to play, you know, and I would like to do some shows, but I just don't want to be stuck in motels in Philadelphia for the rest of my life. You know, I've discovered things that are more important than being on the road. You know, but not that I don't love you all out there, but, you know, I mean, that's it, basically. I don't have it planned, but don't be surprised if you see me in your hometown this Saturday.
Thanks for the call, Ross. We appreciate it. By the way, all of our callers who get on the air with George tonight will receive an autographed copy of Cloud 9, courtesy of Warner Brothers Records, and we thank them for that. We have a call now from...
Dark Horse, actually.
Is it Dark Horse? Gee, they didn't tell me that. We have a call now from Jacksonville, Florida. Rock 105 is our station there, and we welcome Johnny to the Rock Line. Hi.
Hi, Bob.
Hi there.
Hi, George.
Hi, Johnny. How you doing?
Just fine.
Yeah.
It's great to have you back, man.
I haven't been anywhere. I know what you mean, okay. It's great to be back, you know, it is good to be back, but I was always there anyway, even when you never noticed.
Well, that's true.
Thank you.
Looking forward to getting a copy of your book, Songs by George Harrison.
Well, you must be pretty wealthy, because it costs quite a lot, that book. It's like about $200 at least.
Well,
So, no, you must be a yuppie, right? We're all yuppies. Let's face it, I've got a BMW.
I work for the post
post office, George?
Post office, good. Well, send it on a wire. Send it immediately.
Anyway, my question is, are you overseeing the production of the documentary on the Beatles called The Long and Winding Road?
Funny you should mention that, but The Long and Winding Road has been one of the things that we talked about lately. It's been around for years, let's face it. I mean, this road is so long and so winding, you wouldn't believe it. But eventually it should come out. I think first you're actually going to see Yoko's version of The Long and Winding Road, but having said that, we are cooperating with each other because John is also part of our movie, just as the Beatles are part of John's life, and so you're actually going to get 2 films eventually, and one of them will be much sooner than the other. And there may be some same footage in them, but if we're clever, we may be able to trick you into thinking different things happened. Sorry about the noise, I'm hitting the microphone. It's a thing I have, Dr. Ruth taught it to me.
Good call, Johnny, thanks, we appreciate it, and look for both, one sooner than the other,
Johnny,
George says. Let's talk to Drew now. Drew's in London, Ontario, listening to CFPL FM 96, and we welcome him to the Rockline. Hi, Drew.
Hi, Bob. Hi, George.
Hi, Drew. How you doing?
Good to talk to you.
Thank you.
I really like your new album. I think it's really fab.
Good.
And, I enjoyed hearing Lay His Head on the B-side of the first thing. I was wondering if there 2 questions, actually. Wondering if there's any other old or unreleased material you're planning on releasing. And the second thing I was wondering is whether my son, who's a year and a half old, loves your music as well. He says George every time he hears you on the radio.
Oh, that's nice.
I was wondering if your son Danny has any musical aspirations.
He has, yeah. He's sensational, actually, but, he plays William Tell on the piano, but he does it in the minor, like when the arrow missed the apple and got him right in the neck. He plays that version, Da-da-dum, da-da-dum, dum, 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 dum. You know that one. Anyway, yeah, he's really good, and he's into Chuck Berry and all that, but 1.5, he was sort of bopping about 2, but what's the question? Next question.
The other question was about unreleased material.
Unreleased material. I've got more stuff than Jim Reeves ever dreamed of. It's all lying in the attic. It's all the stuff that nobody ever wanted because it wasn't commercial, because it said things that some people don't want to hear, and maybe the chords were wrong and it wasn't produced good enough. But anyway, I've got loads of it. And some of the stuff that's a bit better, like Lay His Head, which you mentioned, the reason that's on the B-side is because it's like extra, really. If you got the album, you got that anyway. And this one, we put that, it's based on an English tradition of having 12-inch singles. And you're supposed to make extended versions of the singles, but we don't have enough time. Sometimes songs don't get extended, They're only 3.5 minutes long, whether you like it or not, so we have to put something else on there to make you happy.
Drew, good call. Thanks for being on tonight. We appreciate it. And let's let Anthony have a turn. Anthony is in Clark Summit, Pennsylvania. He is listening to Rock 107 FM in Scranton, and we welcome him to the Rockline. Good evening.
Hi, George.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
I'd just like to say before I ask my question that I'm also looking forward to my copy of Songs by George Harrison.
So you're a yuppie, too.
But I'm not a yuppie.
No, okay, well, it is a very nice book. I think you'll like it, and I'm sure even if it costs you $500, you'll be able to sell it next year for $700.
Well, I named my son Harrison after you, and I'm hoping that I can keep it in very good shape so that it's something he can enjoy when he gets older.
Well, that's very flattering to name your boy after me. I'm calling my next boy Dylan.
The question I have, George, is I'm a big collector of yours, and I've got everything on the Dark Horse label. And when Ravi's latest album came out, I noticed it was on the Private Music label and not on Dark Horse. And I'm also wondering about Splinter. They made 3 terrific albums.
Well, that's nice of you to be that in touch with some of those things that I was involved with. Ravi, for instance, well, actually, Dark Horse Records ceased to exist really after about 1976, with the exception of the label was just for me, because, some of that stuff, it's hard to get distributed. Nobody really wants to play Ravi Shankar's sensational ballet on the radio, so that's what happens. But, Ravi's been on like 10 million labels. He just keeps on going,
Yeah.
And same with Splinter, actually. At that time, I thought I was going to have a record company, but it's a pain in the butt, really, because if you do any good for them, they all think it's in spite of you, and if you do any wrong, it's because of you.
Yeah.
And they think you're a bank just to give them money and do all that stuff. And so I got fed up with them all, and I got rid of them.
There you go, Anthony. Thank you for your call. We're going to have to take a brief time out, which we will do right now. We'll be back in just a moment with some more songs, some more time to talk with George, and who knows what else here on Rockline this evening. Call us toll-free anywhere from North America at 1-800-344-ROCK. Once again, welcome back to our special 2-hour edition of Rockline, an evening with George Harrison. Right now from the album All Things Must Pass, this is What Is Life on Rockline. What is Life by George Harrison. George, our guest in this 2-hour special edition of Rockline. We're back to the telephones now. I'm Bob Coburn. Next call is from Messenger, Missouri. His name is David. He's listening to KY 102 in Kansas City. David, good evening.
Hi, George. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing fine.
My first question is, and this is kind of on the aside, the guys at Rockline got our phone numbers. I was wondering if you were going to be calling any of us after the show.
That's right, yeah. I'm going to stay up till 7 in the morning. I'm going to call you all back and get my own back on you, okay?
Okay, well, the question I had was, you've completely achieved most people's dream of fame and wealth, but are there any other dreams or aspirations that you still want to see come true?
For myself, you mean, or for everybody?
Well, for yourself, and maybe perhaps for everybody else, too.
Right, well, really, the fame and the wealth bit's good to get out of the way at an early age, because, there's no fun waiting around for taxis or buses when you can't afford a car and all that, and you don't know where your next meal's coming from. But once you got all that bit, you suddenly find out that isn't it anyway. And you still want to know, who am I, what am I doing here, and where am I going? Basically, that is what it's all about. And for me, that helped me get to that point where when you finally reach the top, you find out you're at the bottom. And so, then you have to look somewhere else, and where do you look for this lamp that's a-flashing and that's a-gushing and all that stuff, You listening, Bob? Where do you look? And it's inside. You look in your heart, because that's the only place you're going to get anything of any value in this life, is inside yourself, in your heart. And when you get it, you just got to hang on to it and get more of it and give it to everybody else, and they'll give it back to you. And eventually we'll all get out of here, said the Joker to the thief.
Excellent. David, thanks for the call. Nothing anybody can add to that. Let's talk to Debbie now. She's in Miami, Florida, listening to 97 GTR, and we welcome her to the show. Good evening.
Good evening, George. How are you?
Oh, I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm fine. I first want to say that your album, All Things Must Pass, was a blessing to me. Because the first time that I heard it last year, someone recommended to me, it saved me from committing suicide. And I was able to get into a clinic and get myself well off drugs and everything else. Because the music on there was so inspirational. And the question that I have is, what do you use as your inspiration? Where do you go, or...
Where do you look for the light that's flashing and all that? Yeah, well, that's what I just said. You go inside, I tell you. That's why we all got crazy in the 60s. We all went to Rishikesh and we all tried to find out who we were. And it's very touching to know that you didn't commit suicide, because apparently if you do commit suicide, you have at least 7 stillbirths before you actually get another body, because in your body it's where you have the senses and the experience to gain the knowledge, and we have this amazing nervous system which can take you from being real low to God consciousness. And I don't really, I've just glimpsed all that myself, and I know it's true, but I'm not there myself. But at the same time, that's where you look. It's inside, and just get all the books by the masters, read them, go wherever you can. That'll tune you into yourself, and that's all what it's about.
Debbie, thanks for calling, and what a nice success story to share with us on Rockline this evening. And that's what I alluded to at the beginning of the show, the power of music and how it can affect. Let's listen to some right now. The title track of Cloud 9 by George Harrison on Rockline. Cloud 9 by George Harrison. If you have not heard the album in its entirety, we're playing a lot of music from it tonight, and you'll find out how special this record is. It's quite good from George Harrison. Our next call from Dallas, it's Mark.
Quite good.
It's great.
Quite good.
I like this record a lot. This is Mark from Dallas, listening to Q102. Good evening, Mark.
Hi, George. How's it going?
Hi, Mark. Fine. It's going good.
Pretty good. First of all, congratulations on your #1 single in the U.S. Got my mind set on you.
Good, thank you very much, and I'd like to thank Rudy Clark, who was the guy who actually wrote it years ago, and nobody actually noticed it at that time, but it's lodged in the back of my brain, and I know I did the sort of puffed version of it, Rudy, but if you're listening, I love it, and we chopped that bit out the middle that we didn't like and got rid of the screaming girls, but it was a great song, actually. It was a great song, and Lenny Waronker was the guy who knew it was a hit single.
It really is. Well, George, what were the big influences on your slide guitar playing?
Slide guitar playing, I think I didn't really know about slide guitar playing. I mean, I'd heard them do it, but I'd never done it myself until Delaney Bramlett was Delaney and Bonnie. And I went on the road with him, with Eric Clapton. And on the record they made of a tune called Coming Home, it was Dave Mason, I think, had played slide on the record, and so when we went on the road, Delaney said to me, passing me a slide, and he said, "You play Dave Mason's part," and I don't know what you do with this thing. You know, I mean, I didn't even play. Here's a revelation, all you Beatle pickers out there. I didn't play the slide part on Drive My Car. I was so busy playing the lick from Respect by Otis Redding. You know, I was doing that bit. You know, that kind of thing. And Paul overdubbed that slide. So I never really played slide until this Delaney and Bonnie tour about 1968. And then I thought, oh, that's sort of interesting. But, you know, there's no way you can go to find out how to do that. I mean, Ry Cooder, let's face it, I bought a lot of Ry Cooder records because he's, to me, and Robert Johnson. I was fortunate enough to get to hear Robert Johnson. Because Eric Clapton, years ago, I asked him to give me something good, and that's what he gave me, and it was the best. But I don't really think of myself as a slide player. I spent a lot of years playing the sitar. It seemed like a lot of years anyway, but on the sitar I realized, you know, that I'm not really playing the guitar that much, and by that time there's 29 million players who are all better than you, so I got the slide out, and I thought, well, at least I can fake my way through something. And it became like this thing, people said, wow, you know, he plays this cute slide guitar. But, you know, actually, I feel like Ry Cooder's the guy who plays the good stuff, and he inspires me to try and play that better. But at the same time, I'm into this Indian music, and there's a guy called Brij Bajan Kabra who plays a guitar, but he plays it like a lap steel. He lays it on his leg and plays it with the slide on top, like... and restrung it, but plays all that sort of groovy Indian stuff on it. So that inspires me too. Maybe my style has got a little touch of stuff that got into me when I was, you know, spending all that time with the Indian musicians.
Were you able to learn something quickly enough to play the Dave Mason part with Delaney Bonnie?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah. Actually, I don't think I played slide in the end on that. I just played what Eric was playing. I just played the harmony to that, whatever it was, you know.
Mark, that's a good call. We thank you for it. We appreciate it. And we're going to move on now to Los Angeles and talk with Tim, listening to 95.5 KLOS. Tim, you're on with George Harrison.
Hi, George.
Hi, Kim. Tim.
Hey, I love Cloud 9. It's great rock and roll.
Thank you.
My question was, I know you recorded some songs for the Shanghai Surprise movie.
Yeah.
And
2 of them are on the record right now.
Well, that's what I wanted to know. First of all, what songs were...
Someplace Else, which was the song when Madonna falls in love with Sean Penn. And the song called Someplace Else, which is, you know, was the love song for those two characters. And then the other song is called Breath Away from Heaven, which was when Sean, in the movie, he goes out to see this hooker who lives on a junk out in the in the Bay, see, and he goes to visit her. She's this sort of mystical hooker who thinks she's some ancient, whatever they call them. Anyway, so the song was written for her, you know, about lions and tigers running down willowy paths and stuff like that. There was a song called Shanghai Surprise, which at the time I thought was pretty cute, but in retrospect, you know, I'd have to get Jeff Lynne to sort of do something with it, cut it up or burn it, you know, to make it a bit better.
Thanks for the call, Tim. We appreciate it. Time for one more for right now as we continue with our 2-hour special edition of Rockline with George. It's Crystal in Milwaukee listening to WQFM. Good evening, Crystal.
Hello. Hello.
Hi, Crystal. How you doing?
Hello. There's really so much I want to ask, but I'll ask this. I was wondering who is responsible for the use of the Beatle music in the Nike commercials, and how do you feel about the way your music is being used there?
Yeah, that's a bit of a dead-end question, that, because we already covered that. Just buy a copy of Rolling Stone or Cream magazine or something like that, and you'll find the answer to that one.
So we'll leave it at that, Crystal, and we'll play some music by George as we go back to the album Rubber Soul, the Beatles. This is If I Needed Someone on Rockline. Written by George Harrison, the Beatles on Rockline, If I Needed Someone from Rubber Soul. We'll take a brief time out and return in just one moment. Call us toll-free from anywhere in North America. We're live, so call now. 1-800-344-ROCK. We're talking rock and roll with George Harrison on Rockline. Once again, welcome back to a very special 2-hour edition of Rockline and Evening with George Harrison. Our next phone call is from Atlanta, Georgia, as we talk to John, a listener of 96 Rock. Hi there.
How you doing, Bob?
Real fine.
Oh, that's good to hear. George, peace to you, brother.
Thank you very much.
George, I wanted to ask you a question, but before I do, I'd like to tell you that Let It Be was the first song I was ever really cognizant of as a youngster in 69 or whatever, and I really did something for me then.
Sorry, which song did you say?
It was Let It Be.
Oh, I see. So you must be quite young now.
I'm only 26.
Yeah.
But I remember that, and it struck a chord in me, and now I'm playing and everything, and I really love it. If nothing else, I love the guitar.
Good, well done.
But George, what I was going to ask is, I was wondering if you had any other material that you were thinking about coming up with, or maybe you had some on the drawing board now for another album, perhaps, in the near future.
Yeah, well, I've still got, some tunes. Some of them have potential. Some of them need chucking away. Some of them need rewriting. And some of them should just be left as demos, really, because they're good as demos, but if I made them into a record, nobody would want them. You'd, probably sell more of them if they were just bootlegs. But what I'd really like to do next is, not particularly my own album, is to do an album with me and some of my mates. And that way, we could do something which would be different and would be a one-off thing, but I would only do it if we made it good. I wouldn't just do it like as some sort of daft thing. I'd like to do Old Rockin' Chair, sing a song like Old Rockin' Chair with Eric Clapton. And, a few tunes, maybe the Traveling Wilburys. This is this new group I got. It's called the Traveling Wilburys. And I'd like to do an album with them. And then later, we can all do our own albums again.
You a fan of Hoagy Carmichael?
Cole Porter,
I like some of the...
Oh, I don't know about Cole Porter. I'm sure I like a lot of his tunes, but I'm not that familiar with who wrote what. But Hoagy, I am. Hoagy Carmichael, I did a couple of his tunes. Oh, rockin' chair, got me Louis.
That's what made me think of that. John, thanks for the call. That's a good call.
Judgment Day is creeping up on me. Chained to my old rocking chair. Okay.
Yeah. All right. We're going to talk to somebody named Hardy now in Lincoln, Nebraska. He is listening to Q102. And Hardy, I'd like you to meet George Harrison.
Well, I'm very pleased to meet George. George, I do a Beatles and Beatles-related show on a local radio station here. And so right when I got Cloud 9, I played it immediately, and I was sitting there grinning, believe me.
You liked it.
Done an excellent job on that. And I think Jeff Lynne added a lot to it.
Yeah.
A lot of electric.
Absolutely.
As well. And, they're Beatle influenced, as you know, anyway.
Well, we all are. Let's face it,
My question that I really wanted to ask you is actually taken, I understand, or at least I think it's going to be taken. So I'll try to ask you something else, and that is the song "Breath Away from Heaven." You talked a little bit about it a few minutes ago. That's very Chinese, very Oriental sounding, and it's the type of thing that's totally different from most of the songs on the album. They're pretty much rock and roll or ballad oriented. Was that specifically just written for
Shanghai?
For Shanghai.
Yeah, that one and Someplace Else was written for Shanghai, but we redid the previous song that I mentioned called Someplace Else from the film version. The one of the version of Breath Away from Heaven was basically that track, but we really redid a lot of stuff. With Jeff, we overdubbed all kinds of stuff, and it's we also shortened it too, because in the movie it went on all night. So it's one of them kind of songs that was written for a specific scene in a film, and a lot of the lyrics actually came right out of the screenplay. I just took stuff that was dialogue in the movie, and it also had to sound a bit Chinese because that's what the movie was supposed to be.
So it reflected that. And Hardy, thanks for the call, and good luck with your show, your Beatles show there in Lincoln, Nebraska. We appreciate it. It's now Devon's turn in South Pasadena, a listener of 95.5 KLOS, and we welcome her to the show. Good evening.
Good evening. Hi, George.
Hi, Devon.
Well, you're my favorite artist, and there's something I've always wanted to tell you. The songs you write about God really touch my heart, and I want to thank you for always being so honest in your music and for speaking the truth no matter what people thought.
Thank you. I try.
I know you do. And the question I have is, what have you been doing recently in Handmade films, or have you?
Yeah, there's Handmade films is turning into, I don't know, it's got a lot of stuff. There's a couple of movies out at the moment. One is, let's face it, they're not sort of big Beverly Hill Cop sort of things. There's like 2 movies out in about 3 cinemas in New York and 3 cinemas in LA. One of them is called Five Corners, which was shot in the Bronx, and it's set in 1964. And that film is the first Handmade film that was made with American production crew and director and actors. The other film was made in England, and it stars Bob Hoskins and Maggie Smith. It's a sort of thing about Catholicism, which is sort of a lot of good acting, but very boring subject.
With Five Corners, they're going to use In My Life by the Beatles in the credits, and you tried to prevent that. What was the reasoning behind that?
I feel, we've been ripped off so much. The last thing I want to do is find Handmade Films is ripping us off too, if that's the way it is. But, there is a situation in movies where you pay a sync license to get the rights to a tune, and you can put it on the film. The director thought it fitted the film, and actually it does fit in a way, just like we've also got Bob Dylan singing Times That Are Changing, because the film's set at that period when the black problem was going on, black people were getting their heads beaten in, and the film's all about this white guy whose father was a cop who got killed, and he's changed his attitude. He becomes a peaceful person, and he volunteers to go down to Alabama and have his head bashed in order to attract attention to the problem that was going on. So in its context, the stuff seems to fit. There's another movie, if we're still talking about Handmade films, which will be out shortly, and it's made by quite a well-known director who's a bit of a loony called, I forgot his name now, his film called Track 29 by Nicholas Roeg.
Oh, yeah.
He's made some really good films.
Australian director.
And this film stars a guy who played the guy in Sid and Nancy, about Sid Vicious.
Sure.
Gary Oldman, it's called. And for me, I have a problem because the director, they come to me and they say, okay, we want to use John Lennon singing, Mother, you left me, but I didn't leave you. And at that particular time in my life, I was in one room singing My Sweet Lord. John was in another room in Abbey Road singing, I don't believe in Jesus, I don't believe in nothing. And he went through that situation with Primal Scream, which was really not the best thing I recommend for anybody, but maybe he needed to do it. But it was the point in time when there was, we were at total extreme situation to each other, and that song reminds me of that. I really didn't want it in the film. I tried to talk the director out of it, but if you're making a movie, you gotta, it's no point getting a director and then telling him he can't do what he thinks he should be doing. So I found myself in a bit of a bind. But having seen it on the film, it's such a short piece anyway. All it really does, it sets up the scene for this situation where the boy comes back looking for his mother, who left him years ago. And again, it works in context, but I also have the situation where I have to talk to Paul and Ringo and Yoko, and the last thing I want to do is appear to be using the Beatles or my past or anything. But at the same time, there's Ferris Bueller's Day Off. They've got the Beatles with Twist and Shout. You can, you have the right to get the sync license, like that.
Very interesting. Devon, thank you for your call. We appreciate you being on tonight. We're going to listen to a song now from Cloud 9 by George Harrison. This is Devil's Radio on Rockline. Devil's Radio by George Harrison from Cloud 9. We'll take a time out and return with George in just one moment on Rockline and the Global Satellite Network. Call us toll-free from anywhere in North America, 1-800-344-ROCK.